South Asian influence is embedded in British culture, contributing to our multicultural society as a result of the colonial empire.
They didn't come under Conservatives. If Conservatives had anything to do with it, they wouldn't be here.
But their votes as a bloc are no longer guaranteed.
If you work it on sort of racism, I don't think we'd vote for any of them.
Now, traditional community habits aren't the main priority.
British Asians could hold the balance of power.
Instead, it's combined with what really matters to them. It was the cotton mills of Pendle in Lancashire that brought many Pakistanis and other Asians to the northwest. Generations later, the mills are slowly disappearing, but those families remain. 1 in 5 people here come from a South Asian background, almost 3 times the national average, the majority of them Muslims. For years, they've voted as a group for Labour, but modern politics and the fallout from the EU referendum are dividing these communities and their families. This constituency has the second smallest Conservative majority in the northwest. It also has by far the largest ethnic minority population of any seat held by the Tories outside of London.
Yeah, so breakfast time now, as you could see. This is Mr.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Bar, you're right.
Yes,
I've
thank you,
heard
are you?
you do some good breakfast.
Misbah is Lancashire born and bred. She describes herself as Labour through and through, mainly because of the influence of her family and the community.
Everybody votes Labour. All your friends, your family, everybody votes Labour. And that's what it always has been. And, you know, families are very, very loyal, whereby, you know, they do stick to the fact that, you know, no, we've always been Labour, and that's what we're sticking to. Because, you know, the Conservatives have always had, what sort of like a reputation of Conservatives have, like making the rich richer and the poor poorer.
Oh, yeah, but to be honest, I think it is changing now, this concept of Asians voting the Labour. I think we're at that stage now where people do actually read about the policies, they do actually, so it's like the family politics going out now slowly.
But their political views were divided by the EU referendum. Misbah's husband, Husnain, voted to leave, while she supported Remain.
At the time, they were misled. They weren't given the right information. And I feel the same way. I mean, if you ask me now, would I vote leave again? Would I? Heck, no, I wouldn't.
How did you feel knowing that he was going to vote leave?
I'd like to think it was because we weren't well informed about what actually Leave and Remain meant. And I do think that a lot of people will be voting differently in December, so it's a bit of a godsend, this election in December, to be honest with you.
Misbah's re-examining her political opinions every day. Do you think the Conservatives could ever win you round with anything?
Yeah. They've tried. Believe me, they've tried. You know, I've had Asian uncles, we refer to, you know, Asian men in the community that have worked with my dad, you know, 40 years ago, knocking on my door saying, hey, you're voting Conservatives this year. And I'm like, am I? You are. I used to work with your dad 40 years ago. You're going to vote for me because I'm standing up and I'm thinking, Uncle, you used to vote for Labour like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm sure you did. You know, these are the people that came to England under the Labour government. They didn't come under Conservatives. If Conservatives had anything to do with it, they wouldn't be here.
So this is it, Mum's Club.
This is it. Hello, everyone.
Hi, ladies. Hi.
For her friends, a group of Pakistani mothers, politics dominates the conversation.
The elders in the community, the elders in the family, or the men in the family, they like to dictate what they want the women to do. And a lot of them have fallen into that trap where, well, my husband said it and I have to do it.
I think what we are today is because of Labour, our foundation, and anything you look at around the world, and it's always based on the foundation. My daughter said to me, she's at uni, she goes, look, you can't just vote Labour all the time. You want to look what they're doing for us, what they're not doing for us. As a community, what are you putting in the pot? What are you taking out of the pot?
So would you ever vote for anyone but Labour?
I would. I personally would. I mean, my household, I know when I voted for Conservatives, there was a big hoo-ha. We're all voting for Labour, so that's your
Why
choice.
was there a hoo-ha?
Because Shabana said, that everybody believes that Labour is the only party that will support us Asians, South Asians.
Awaz 103.1 FM, Voice of the Community.
It's clear that South Asians in Pendle all have close ties. People here are keen to publicly proclaim their allegiances. So we're from Sky News today to come and speak to the people of Pendle, the Asian and the Muslim voters of Pendle to find out exactly how people are going to vote in the 2019 general election.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I'll be voting Labour. I don't see how any person, let alone Asian, can vote Tory, given their track record.
Is there a way that they could ever win you round? Could any other party maybe win you round and not vote for Labour?
Not a chance at all. I've abstained from voting in the past, and I will vote this time, and that's purely because of Jeremy Corbyn.
So I'm not quite sure exactly who I'm going to vote for, but I know kind of who I won't be voting for.
Okay.
And that's definitely the Tories. That's the one party that I won't be voting for.
With so much public support for the Labour Party, this constituency still voted for a Conservative MP in 2017. Muhammad Tariq is an estate agent. He's been a Labour member his whole life until now, and he believes he's not the only one here to change sides.
They have switched big way. We have a local election last year, and our Tory party has won a very vast majority in Asian votes. If Tariq, as me, can change my views, very strong views, and all my I campaign every year. If I can change my views, normal people will change just like that.
Maria Sobolewska is an expert in voting behaviour at the University of Manchester and studies voting patterns. Her research shows that the community elders' grip on Asian voting habits is losing its force.
They are behaving more and more like a white British voter in a sense that they shop around for a political party. However, we also know from research that Asian and generally ethnic minority people do retain these partisan identities longer and more than the equivalent young people of white British origin. And we think that is because the patterns of passing on that identity from parent to child are stronger in minority communities.
Since its creation, West Bromwich East has been red, another place where more than 1 in 5 people are Asian, who strongly supported the former deputy leader of the Labour Party, Tom Watson. But 68% of the constituency voted to leave the EU, and the blue vote is gaining ground. So we've just made it to West Brom, and there's a trend here similar to the rest of the country. One minority group has noticeably increased its support for the Conservative Party, both in 2017 and 2015. British Indians, in particular Hindus and Sikhs. For many of them, this general election is about delivering the result of the EU referendum, even if that means changing lifelong voting habits. This successful metalworks in West Bromwich has a diverse workforce, mainly made up of Indians. Manjeet and Ravi Full run the family business, which has been here for decades. You voted Labour your whole life. Why has that been, and why have you changed now to the Conservatives?
Well, because I voted out now, and I know Conservatives want to leave now, so now I have to support my vote. And I'm happy to vote Conservatives because, to be honest, I'm with Boris now. I just want to leave, and I want to be able to set our own rules and regulations for this company, for businesses, for the economy.
As first-generation Asians being born in this country, typically our parents have just said to us, vote Labour, vote Labour, vote Labour. That's what we've been brought up with, voting Labour. As we've sort of got into the positions that we have, got to understand what politics is about, we've started making our own decisions.
So even for you, Ravi, someone who's voted Labour your whole life, you voted to remain in the EU.
I did, yes.
But this time round, you're going to vote Conservatives as well.
Yes. I've voted Conservatives, no offence, I've voted Conservatives the last 2 elections because having inherited the business, taking it over, my priorities changed slightly in terms of what we need for myself, my family.
I think the younger generation now are a lot more educated. There's not a lot of Asians now who are in these sort of labour-intensive jobs. I think the younger generation and us who are sort of degree-based educated, going forward, will see that Conservative as a better vote.
As Asians, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place with the 2 main decisions that we've got to make, Conservative or Labour, because they're the only 2 parties that can really get anything done. You've got the anti-Semitism row with Labour, you've got the letterbox row with Boris Johnson, Again, there's certain things you've got to see through, and we've got to make it policy based. If you work it on sort of racism, I don't think we'd vote for any of them.
Manjeet's weekly Bhangra class is an opportunity to reconnect with the culture of her parents' generation, even if her political views have evolved. At this class, music and dance may bring these women together, but the division in this community is apparent.
I don't like Jeremy Corbyn, and it's not personal. I'm not happy with his manifestos. I'm not happy with everything that he's doing, and I just think if we tried to change now, we try to go to Labour, we'll just put ourselves back 5 years again, because all we're trying to do is, Conservatives have been there so long now, and we need to get... Our priority at the moment is just to get Brexit done.
Yeah, but so long, but in that space of time, in that state of abeyance, what's happened?
It does not matter,
exactly.
But the point is, what will happen when Labour comes in?
Nothing will happen when... abeyance. We haven't had that action.
It'll be the same when Labour comes in.
If you read the Conservative manifesto, it's actually trying to undo everything it has done while it's been in power. Yeah. It took away nurses, now it wants to put it back. They took away teachers, now they want to put them back. They took away the police, now they want to put them back.
Yeah,
well, why did you take them away in the first place?
It's hard to ignore the sounds of British Asians keen to share their political views. Professor Sobolevska's research shows that South Asian votes are up for grabs, and the main parties can win or lose this key demographic.
I think this is an interesting election. A lot of Asian origin and generally minority origin voters do vote along very similar lines to the white British voters. So they will want to vote on economic competence, on the NHS, on education, on issues like that. I think in a handful of marginal constituencies, the British Asians could hold the balance of power if it proves that the Conservative Party can successfully appeal to them.
And while the Conservative Party has been trying to win over this demographic for decades, the Leave campaign achieved that in a matter of months. At this general election, the increasing number of South Asians in the UK could hold the balance of power.